Welcome in YouTube. Today we're going to be talking about week 2, what happened, what we learned, as well as must adds for your waiver wire. There are an absolute ton of injuries to start the season, so chances are you've already suffered. But without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So first off, one of my biggest takeaways from week 2 is Najee Harris. Put a fork in this guy. He was never an efficient runner with the football. His biggest selling point when drafting him was he was going to get the workload. He was going to get some of the passing game. And that looks to be all but over. Jaylen Warren is here. He looks like the better runner, the better pass catcher. He looks more explosive. Najee Harris could very well be a touchdown dependent running back for the rest of the season if this continues. Our second takeaway is going to be about the Rams. The Rams offense looks way better than anticipated, especially with Cooper Kupp out. Puka is absolutely the real deal. He's going nowhere. He is here to stay, whether Cooper Kupp is here or not. He's probably broken every rookie record for the start of a career for a wide receiver in the first 2 games of the year. He had 15 catches on 20 targets in week 2. That is absolutely incredible. So you're going to ride this guy until the wheels fall off. I really don't know how Cooper Kupp's going to come back and this guy is going to disappear out of this offense. And we can't leave out Kyren Williams. He is killing it. He is catching the ball. He is running the ball. He is scoring. He's doing everything right. Cam Akers is going to be traded, it looks like. I could see it happening any day now, especially with the Nick Chubb injury. A lot of people are getting hurt, and Cam Akers could be definitely moved very shortly. But going back to Williams, he's the number 2 running back on the year in fantasy. If you picked him up on waivers, good for you. It looks like you're going to have a workhorse back this season. But again, it's a huge surprise. Nobody saw this coming. Kyren Williams was on nobody's radar. We all expected Cam Akers to take over, and that looks to be all but over. And speaking of surprises, Nico Collins had a monster week 2. If you don't follow us, we were giving you sleepers going into week 2. Nico Collins was one of them, and he was picking up chunk plays after chunk plays. The Texans are struggling running the football, so it looks like the only way they're going to be moving this ball is through the passing game, and this offense is dying for somebody to come out of it. And Nico Collins looks like the guy that's going to be fantasy gold this season. He could keep it up. This CJ Stroud looks like he's pretty good throwing the football. And if this continues, he could be an absolute gem for you. Another good takeaway. Sell high on Garrett Wilson. Listen, if there's somebody in your league that is willing to buy Garrett Wilson for the right price, go ahead and let him go. We were sold the dream that Aaron Rodgers would be coming over and this offense would shine. Garrett Wilson would have top 5 fantasy upside, but that's all but over. That dream is done. Now we're living the Zach Wilson nightmare that we did in 2022. And if it wasn't for a long touchdown that Garrett Wilson absolutely housed to the yard, he would have finished with 3-4 fantasy points in this game against the Cowboys. So sell high on Garrett Wilson. His upside right now is probably he could be a wide receiver 2 for your team, which is fine. That's not bad at all. But where we drafted him, it's not going to pay off for you. So if you can, sell high on Garrett Wilson. And my final takeaway for week 2, injuries. Injuries are starting to pile up. One of the craziest starts to an NFL season. I don't think I've ever seen so many injuries to start a year. Jalen Waddle is in concussion protocol. Barkley is going to miss a few games. We have Joe Burrow, who's aggravated his calf. Anthony Richardson in concussions. David Montgomery is going to be missing a few weeks. Nick Chubb is going to be out for the season. These are all names that are fantasy relevant. And these guys, these aren't just nobodies. These are people that were highly rostered in fantasy that are going to leave holes on people's rosters in fantasy. And if you want to get into the playoffs, that way you're not looking from the outside looking in, listen, follow these waiver wire videos. We will get you to the promised land. And speaking of picking up the right players to get you in the playoffs, let's jump into the top 5 must adds for week 2. And at number 5, we got Josh Reynolds. He continues to produce. It's 2 straight weeks of fantasy production. I am personally skeptical on how long he could be fantasy relevant, but Jameson Williams is suspended. He's going to be suspended for a little bit now. He's worth a flyer to see what happens, but this is a guy that you can get basically for free. He's available in 95% of ESPN leagues, and he's also available of 86% of Yahoo leagues. So this guy you could pick up for basically nothing. And at number 4, we have Matt Breida. I know it's gross, and he does play the 49ers on Thursday Night Football, which is probably not somewhere where you would like to start him, but he is the next man up. He's potentially going to be the starter, with Barkley going to miss some time. I would just put him on my team just to see how long Barkley's going to be out. But again, this is a guy that I'm not starting on Thursday Night Football against the 49ers. He's just a flyer. If you're absolute desperate and you need some volume, he's worth an ad. And at number 3, we have Tutu Atwell. Again, this is a guy that possibly got overlooked in week 1 due to Puka Nacua going absolutely nuts. I think a lot of the shine went to Puka, and Tutu definitely was not picked up week 1. If he was, sure, but he is still available in majority of leagues. In Yahoo, he is available in 74% of leagues. So listen, he put up 2 back-to-back respectable fantasy performances. So I think he's definitely worth an ad. This Rams offense looks much better than we all anticipated. Matt Stafford is looking a lot better than a lot of people anticipated. So with Cooper Kupp out of the picture, Atwell is definitely worth an ad. And at number 2, we have Jaylen Warren. Now, this is a guy that isn't going anywhere. I know we spoke earlier about how Najee Harris looks cooked, and part of that reason is Jaylen Warren. He's looked like the overall better runner with the football, a better catcher. He's more explosive. So I don't think Jaylen Warren is going anywhere. He's going to be a part of this offense moving forward, and he's going to be a sneaky play in PPR because he's catching about 5 or 6 balls a game. So Jaylen Warren, especially in PPR, he is a must add this week. And at number 1 should become a no surprise after watching the Monday night game, Jerome Ford. Listen, Nick Chubb's going to be out for the remainder of the year. It sucks. The next guy up is Ford, and he looks like he's going to be the overall starter from now until the end of the season. That, of course, can only happen if the Cleveland Browns do not add a veteran running back in free agency. Kareem Hunt did play with them. There are rumors that they could possibly add him. There are also rumors that Cam Akers could possibly be traded to them. But right now, we don't have that information. Waivers are going to be running. This is a guy that could possibly be the starter. You got to put in a claim for him. It's going to cost you heavy, especially in fab leagues. You're probably going to have to spend up upwards of 35%, maybe 40, maybe even 50%, depending on your leagues. But I think he's worth the risk here. This is a guy that you could possibly have a starter from now until the end of the season. So roll the dice on Ford. He looked the part yesterday. That is going to wrap up today's video, guys. I appreciate you if you stuck all the way to the end. Again, if you like fantasy football, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you in the next video.